Hi, everybody. Welcome to Breaking It Down with Jodi Marks. I'm your host, Jodi Marks, and we are on episode 8. We have a great panel for you tonight. We have LaTianna Williams, Deanne Stewart, and Maina. And tonight we're going to be talking about social media and news. We're going to be getting into all of that. But first, we're actually going to have them introduce a little bit about themselves. So, Kim, can you start us off?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Maina, but I go by Kim. I am 23 years old. I'm a singer, actress, songwriter, and model, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Then Deanne.
Hi, I'm Deanne Stewart, and I am in New York City, and I'm in the cast of Jagged Little Pill on Broadway, and yeah, I do a bunch of other, things in the arts, and activism as well, and yeah, that's me.
And hi guys, I'm LaTianna. You could call me Lala, and I have a blog called House of Lala Inc. And I'm also an intuitive coach about feminine energy and stuff. I do drama therapy at a state mental facility, so it's definitely a show every day, for sure.
That's amazing. I'll go to any show right now. Okay, I need so. You want to Zoom in with me one time? I'll watch. I'll be like, ooh, yes. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. So what are some pros and cons that you find with social media or the news? Anybody?
Exposure is the positive thing, for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of liked, just like a side note for Instagram, but when the Black Lives Matter kind of happened, it was nice going to my feed and it was just all brown, beautiful melanin. But then, it's going to start phasing out, and that's kind of the negative side. It's just, I don't know, maybe the control people have in their companies with that.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's nice to be able to feel like you can own a space. And in a sense, social media kind of just gives any and everyone a platform, which has, it's definitely a great thing in some regard, and sometimes it can be a not so great thing. Right. But yeah, that's I think it's good for people sometimes to feel like they can take ownership of a space and, establish who they are and who they want to be and how they want to be seen and viewed.
Mm-hmm. Kim, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I really agree with what she said. You can really be yourself on social media, and kind of just the exposure of it all and having a platform to, speak your mind and say how you feel. That's one thing that I love about social media.
Yeah. I mean, another thing I was thinking about in that answering that question though, was social media is also such a great thing for spreading information, but on the other hand, I find, especially since all of the civil unrest has started, it is such an easy way for misinformation to be spread. And that is just like you'll see things go viral and you're like, wait, did anyone actually read what this says? Does anyone understand?
Click share.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my God, no.
Like, you always have to check yourself. People be wrecking themselves. Sure. I guess the negative is, like you said, like that information that can just go out there. Anyone can Photoshop something, make something up and spread it.
It's so easy. They do it so quickly. They're so fast at it too. It's like, oh my goodness. And then, it just kind of goes viral from there, and then it snowballs into a whole thing. And
yeah.
So hard to
so many people just don't really either research on their own or fact check on their own. Yeah. And they just really take, especially people with the largest platforms, that automatically gives people credit in some people's minds. So it's just oh, if you have 100,000 or 2 million followers, so if you're sharing it, it must be legit, even though I'm like, well, maybe they just clicked it too.
Clicking, sharing information. I actually had an issue with somebody that posted something about Candace Owen, and I'm like, well, I wonder what she got from it, because people were messaging me, and I guess that kind of goes into the fatigue of just social media, but people are just like, oh my God, look what she wrote. Da, da, da. I was like, well, let me give her a benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a reason why she posted this particular video. So I said, well, what are the pros and cons? Like trying to have an intellectual conversation. And all she said was, well, you just gotta like look at all the information. And I'm like, but that's not all the information in that one video. And it was just so surface level. So I got really irritated with that. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I probably shouldn't have wrote as much as I wrote to her, but I'm like, you want to be educated on Black people, look at your microaggressions.
Right.
Like, look at other things and give out resources, because she does have like a really high following. And I guess people don't realize their influence sometimes.
Yeah.
You
mess up, but correct it.
Right.
Corrected it.
And don't be afraid to correct it. Don't be afraid to say wrong with, saying
my
certain
heart
things.
was beating, but it felt right.
Yeah.
You apologize.
The accountability factor is so important. It's like you have to be willing to hold yourself accountable, especially if you have such a large following that, people are just taking what you say as fact.
I like the generation that we're in now, like just seeing a lot of Black women on screen, like in all the movies, like Taraj, and it's inspiring. Like I remember going to the supermarket one day into the magazine area, and it was like so many Black women and men on covers. And so I like got them all and put them together, and I was like, man, when I was a kid, this would not be here.
Yeah, I've had so many of those moments where I'm just like, wow, how amazing to be a child in like this generation, to be able to see so much, like with representation, especially in theater. Like we all obviously are involved in theater, and like it really boggles my mind sometimes where I'm like, wow, I personally am still dealing with the issues and like the trauma and the things that happened, in my brain, the way my brain got wired because of, I grew up in a predominantly white suburb. And so like the lack of representation in art and media and theater, like really messed me up. And I'm still like, it's like, I'm still at this point, like I'm 29 years old and I am still grappling with that on certain days, to be like, oh yeah, like I can do that and that's okay. And like, look at that. Like you can be a princess. Like, how amazing.
No, I really identify with what you said there, because I feel the same way. I remember growing up forgetting I was Black actually sometimes, because I'd grow up in areas and move around a lot to where there wasn't much people that looked like me. So I just play around with these people and stuff. But then one day I'll just be called ugly or dark and bullied, like running away from boys, like boys trying to beat me up. And I've been reading Bell Hooks recently on feminism, Black feminism actually, because the original feminism was all for white mainly, but just her reading that, systematic ways of just trying to convey Black women like on screen being promiscuous, the angry Black woman, just something so negative, and it carries on in different systems today. It's just so much deeper. So I really identify with that, and I've been healing from that as well, even to the point of my hair. But I don't know if I took that from my mom, because they used to call her boy growing up, and they called me boy because of my hair. And so this identity with my hair was an issue for a while, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely feel that one. Growing up, I mean, I'm Kenya, the US. And so growing up, I kind of like struggled with my identity, because on one point it was like I wasn't African enough, and then on the other hand I wasn't Black enough, and that was a little tough. And then I also I have alopecia, so but growing up, like in elementary school, I didn't wear wigs for a while, so you could kind of like see that my hair was like thinning out. You could like start to see the bald spots, and then I had to start wearing a wig when I was 9 years old. So like, being bullied from such a young age, and like kids are just so mean. They're just mean. So I actually started, really embracing myself and my hair and lack thereof about 2 years ago maybe, and I posted on social media, and it was just kind of like I felt so free after that. I was like,
empowering.
Finally, I can truly be myself. So I definitely I hear where you're coming from with that.
I love that. I'm back.
Hi, you're not freezing.
My Wi-Fi just loves to boot me out of things. So if it happens again, I love that you all are just keep going because I have the show on and I'm seeing what's happening.
We're just gonna chat.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is. It's chatting, it's opening up dialogue. I love that Kim opened up about that because I see that on your social media, Kim, all the time now. Because when I first met you, I knew it was a very hard topic.
Yeah.
And just that you are so empowering with it because you are beautiful.
Yes.
And I love that. And I love that you are so comfortable in your skin to even allow somebody to even be in that space with you,
Yeah.
And I find that, and that's what I love about social media, because you can be your own goofy self. And if people don't want to follow you, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye.
Exactly.
You don't need them. But I also wanted to ask, how are you all affected if you see your numbers do grow? Do you feel like you have to put on a front at times, especially as a person of color, or a woman of color, I should say?
I think my follows fluctuate a lot. And it's funny because my sister, I talked to her like the other day and she's like, you put out really good content. How come you don't have many followers and you even have a lot of comments? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it either. It's the way it is. Like, I don't know. But
algorithm.
Yeah, it really is the manipulation of big bosses,
Right.
And even, I don't know if any of you saw, there was like a whole thing that had come out where it was basically like Instagram admitting to,
it really is the manipulation
of Instagram admitting to like the bias that is within the algorithm. And it's like there are certain people that the algorithm is set to benefit, and people who post certain types of things and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just, that's like a really fascinating thing. And then also really interesting how, like, while everything, in the last couple of months, it was like, oh, all of a sudden certain pages of Black women and like Black organizations and stuff went from being no one ever heard of them to like, hundreds of thousands of followers.
So true.
Yes.
Yeah. I know with me, and I know Jodi, you know this, but I used to be I need to get my followers up, which I still feel that way, but not so much lately. I've been posting less and less and kind of just living in the moment. However, when I do post, I post at a specific time. Every time, I'm checking.
You taught me that.
Yeah, I'm checking the live.
She was like 10 a.m. girl.
Yeah. That's LA, LA, around 10 or whatever. And then I also just check because I made my page like a business page, so I can go and check and see when people are like actually looking at my content and like looking at my page and what days do I do the best. So but I've been posting like less and less, kind of just chill for a minute. But when I do get back, that's really how I usually do it. And I do feel a little pressure sometimes because people are like, you've been gone for so long, like what's going on? I'm like,
I'm just living.
Living life in the present moment.
It's okay to take a break.
Like you have to.
As much.
Yeah.
You have to.
Especially now, like sometimes you see those things on your feed and you're like, I need a mental break.
Yeah.
It's important, but people don't understand. They just were like, why can't? No.
Well, it's like the whole thing of like, especially with Black women, I feel like it's like this constant thing of like, well, give of yourself. Like that's what it's like that's what we do. Is like we give of us, no matter in every capacity, you know, more than I think anyone else is expected to. And there is something that like I feel like especially in the last couple of months, like for me personally on social media is like what it felt like. And I did, and especially the more that I was receiving like praise and even admiration for the things that I was posting, or people being like, oh my gosh, your content is so helpful during all of this, like you're so blah blah blah, it was just giving me more of a feeling of pressure that like, okay, well, people are really paying attention to it, so like I have to like keep going, like I have to create a graphic, I have to like find like what this, you know, this next topic that needs to be spoken about or whatever. I'm just like, and then I literally had a whole like, I just had the last few weeks, I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I can't.
I feel that. I felt like every day I had to post something that would enlighten somebody or try to change somebody's life. And it got to the point where I was like searching for content instead of like bringing in the content in my own, you know, and actually learning myself. And I always say this on the show, I'm like, learn, like be enlightened. But at the same time, it's like, girl, you better do the same thing. Hello? Take the time instead of just trying to get everybody else to learn, like read your posts, learn from other people. But also I had a hard time when I would post about like Black Lives Matter. I would get more likes with a picture of me and my boyfriend than post about Black Lives Matter. And I'd be like contemplating, like it made me go into some deep thinking and some soul searching and being like, and I had to step away because that like hurt my soul right there. Because I'm like, it shouldn't be, oh, a selfie here gets more likes and then Black Lives Matter, I'm like 20 something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's the algorithm.
Yeah. Power of the algorithm.
I know my friends see it. Think alike.
I don't see a lot of people in DMs though, like, oh, I'm so glad you were talking. Like sometimes I'll be quiet and just be posting, and then I do like Fashion Fridays or people vote yes or no on the stories. But I remember when everything was kind of happening a few months ago, I was talking a lot about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, do that. Can you talk more about that?" Or like people just be like creeping in the DM, like, "Oh, what do you think about this article?" Well, it's like for mental health, like literally, you need to like. I had to get off for a while. Mm-hmm.
Where do you all get your information the most? Like what social media or news outlet do you all go to? I'm curious.
Well, there's for me, there's a local organization in North Carolina, and what's the name? The name is escaping my head right now. But normally I go on their Instagram page, and actually one of my friends, he organizes all the protests over here, him and a couple other people. So I kind of go on their page and find more information. There's also, there's a couple other pages. I should have written all this down actually.
I've done that too. I get a lot of therapists and psychologists and things like that. Maybe because I'm like a psych nerd with the theater nerd. I like looking at stats. Like, oh, where'd you find these stats?
Yeah, I definitely look on Instagram, or as the Black community likes to look on Black Twitter.
Yes, girl, Black Twitter. Yes.
Kim, you put me on Black Twitter.
I haven't seen it yet. I barely have an account.
I'm like, I don't have a Twitter, but my friends send me stuff from Black Twitter sometimes.
I feel like Black Twitter, it's more of what the news is not showing you, you know, of this is what actually has going on in the protests, or it's not all one-sided. Look at the facts. Right. And that's what gets me about the news though, right? Because it's also opinionated, I feel like nowadays, instead of factual.
Yes.
Like, where are the facts? Because I see a news anchor just they're going, they're spewing, and I'm like, okay, but all you're giving me is your opinion on what's happening.
Right.
So what do you think the news has to do, or has to basically, honestly, they just have to recreate themselves. But what do you think they should do to gain the trust of the Black community? Because at this point, there's little to no trust.
That's a good question.
I feel like maybe social media has impacted that, because I feel like now there's such a blur between like social media platforms and like legit news stations and stuff, where it does feel like sometimes when, I mean, honestly, I had to stop watching the news months ago, but but when I was watching it, when it was like really in the thick of things, I was feeling that too, where it's just like, this feels like I'm watching like an opinion column, you know? And even there was a point in time when, you know, when the protests and stuff kind of first started, where I would actually watch, like, I would put on like Fox News sometimes just to see like what they talking about.
Yeah, what do they talk about?
They were talking craziness. And it was just like, wow. And the way it was just like these like slight spins where I'm just like, wow, I almost see how people just get brainwashed into like you know, into falling into the traps of what you are saying with the way that you're just kind of spinning and twisting certain things. And it's like, because it's not just like, oh well, these are the facts. It's like, well, these are the facts through my filter of this extreme bias, and I want to present this to you in a way that's going to lead you over here.
Yes. And it's ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, I'm always wondering, how does the newsroom work? Like I really want to know. I'm like, who gives you this information? And then you are like, okay, let's say it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
I read it from the teleprompter.
Right. First of all, I would be so bad at that.
A certain way. It's always the owners, people that own stuff. Get their way.
We gotta have new owners. And Fox is very problematic. Like you said, Deanne, like they are known to be very and just racist, to be honest. Yes. And just very pro-Trump. We all know this.
Yep. One of the things I remembered very distinctly from watching one night was, it's crazy. They were like, don't they know like African Americans are hurting themselves with these protests, because in I forget which, was it Detroit? I don't know, some sort of like riots and protests that kind of happened in like a point in like the 1960s, maybe late 60s. They were like, when that happened, the property value of African American neighborhoods and homes decreased by this. So really, like by them doing this right now, they're just hurting themselves. It was like this whole thing, and I was like, wow.
And that's what I don't get, because I've seen those stories too. And they're like, yeah, the Black community is hurting each other. They're like rioting and they're writing on the walls. And I'm like, did you see a Black person actually do that? Or are you just gonna say, like, give me footage? I need facts. Right. Like, again, I need facts. This is your opinion? Or who?
Yeah.
Are you gonna tell me who did it? Because I've seen videos of white women spraying all up on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not telling them to do it. I saw someone give me a video.
Yes, I saw that too.
It's random.
I was like, aren't you supposed to be protecting the businesses that you're telling her to write on?
Stabbing people.
Right.
Getting in a wheelchair, stabbing people. And I think there was another story about it that she was trying to say, oh, they're like hurting me, they're harming me, and I'm just trying to go into Target and blah, blah, blah. But no, there's video of her like trying to stab people.
She was literally trying to stab people.
Mm-hmm. There's another one of a man. I actually saw a news clip of it before I saw the real story. And this man had literally a cross, like a bow and arrow, like crossbow kind of situation happening. And he, in the news article and the news video, he was saying how I was just trying to protect the protesters from people coming at me, blah, blah. But then 2 Black men decided to jump me and I was in my car and that's why I look so beat up. And then the video came out and it's actually him outside of his car already shooting protesters with this. And I was like, you blatantly said 2 Black men pulled you out of your car to beat you and you were just trying to protect them and all that. But you actually were shooting and being the one who, you're not a victim, okay? You like, that's not, don't go there. I hate when people do that. But I was like, you tried spinning this, but I'm happy that we have social media out there where people got the actual footage and they called you out. That's the thing that I love about, call them out.
People really were coming out to the protests just to set the protest up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with this
And I'm like, dang, like y'all are like what in the, why? Like why would you even, it's speechless. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't understand like what goes through somebody's mind. Like, oh, let me show up to this protest and, let me start, antagonizing people and let me spray paint this and blame it, on other people. It's just, I don't know. Like, it's so ridiculous. I can't even.
Even like
we actually have
that, like there's like an influencer girl that they're fixing up like the buildings, and she goes over and she's like, hey, can I have that? And she holds it and the guy takes a picture.
Oh yeah.
Her post to say, I'm helping. Like,
yep.
Right.
And then she's like, thanks, and gives it back.
And literally walks away, gets in the car and drives off.
How is social media news different than regular mainstream media or the news? How are they different and portrayed?
It's funny because I feel like something, I'm like, were we talking about this last time, or was this something that it might have been another conversation I actually was just having recently? But I wanted to say like, oh, well, social media has more opinion in it, and like the news is more fact, but that doesn't feel like the case anymore.
I'm
like, I feel like I watch the news and it's like I'm almost watching like talk shows where I'm like, this is just your opinion.
Yes. And they never actually go to like the main sources. Like you'll hear them say like, oh, this person today, and I'm like, well, where's that person? Like, did they say it? Like, you know what I mean? And like social media is so your own story, and media is just like somebody looking into yourself. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, because like even depending on how you post, how you hashtag, what you look for, they find that similar. So you always find things that are your view. So I feel like it is very controlled, but then like a news station would be controlled, like Fox 11, like you were talking about last week, and just thinking about the higher ups and like the owners and what they make the broadcasters present, how they spin things, how people write things in newspapers or articles online. Like we literally have to be critical thinkers at this point in time and double guess everything, unfortunately.
Fact check them. That's a sad thing. It's like people have to fact check the news. I'm like, you should be giving me it already. Like I shouldn't have to go somewhere else to get it.
Yeah.
And then also you said hashtags. Hashtags play such a big part in social media because especially like the hashtag, like say their name, say her name. How has that helped the movement, I guess? How is it like kind of fueled people actually seeing the hashtags?
I don't know. I was actually listening to Bell Hooks on something on YouTube today about, what was she saying? I'm going to blink out, but she was talking about how is it helping the movement if we're just hashtagging, if we're just doing protests, like why are we not focusing on the home and in the home, and our highest level of like resistance is just creating a loving atmosphere at home. And I was like, oh, that's a good point too. I guess I didn't think about that. It's like, yeah, we're protesting, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like I'm looking at it, I'm sharing it, but it's still putting responsibility outside of you.
Yeah, I think like hashtags are such an interesting thing because they end up being rooted in popularity. And it's like, just because something doesn't become popular doesn't make it not important. And I think that's like a weird thing with social media where it's like, oh, popularity is the key, you know. It's like for something to go viral, or, you know, something to be shared accessibly or to be seen by a ton of people, even with you know, we were talking about the algorithm a little bit, and it's like, yeah, the algorithm like boosts things that it thinks people want to see. So I don't know, it's like the hashtags, they're a good way to raise awareness if you can get them to become popular enough. But at the same time, sometimes it feels like, oh, well, things are discredited or, you know, viewed as just less important if it's not, you know, well known enough hashtag. And it's like, that's not, you know, that's not right. But I mean, they're a useful tool. They can be.
Or like the Blackout Tuesday, when that hashtag, and then everybody was like, don't use the hashtag because now you're creating like just a black page when information is trying to get out there. That's like a fine line, because they're telling you to do one thing and then people are doing it black, but then it actually like is hurting.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I felt so bad too, because I even used the hashtag. I was like, I'm dumb.
Too. Like, let me archive it then.
Yes, and then you're like, oh, I gotta repost, and then you're just like, But then also those black like squares, I was kind of mad when I saw people that only did the black square and they didn't do anything else.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. And I think that's a thing with like social media and with trends, where it's like it quickly becomes, it's so easy to like press a button and to share something and whatever. And the problem in this day and age with like our social media age is like, if you just think that that's the extent of your activism, and therefore you're like, oh, well, like, you know, I share things, you know, and it's like,
yes,
well, that can be useful. And especially, you know, if you have like a larger platform where it's like, you know, by you clicking a button, hundreds of thousands of people might see some information that they wouldn't otherwise see. Great. But also like there's so much more in terms of actually rooting out the issues that we have and making change.
Yes. And some things are hurting the Black Lives Movement on social media, and some things are helping. So what do you guys think is helping and what do you think is hurting? No, it's a lot.
I think what we were just talking about, like it's hurting when you're not actually, like she's saying, like putting in the work or doing something or figuring out what you're called to do and to be part of that, because maybe not everyone is going to be like the speaker. Maybe they'll be behind the scenes or, you know, reaching out to your community. Like, but then we're in the midst of COVID, so I know that was kind of hard to do, but it's just, I think just the media and how big it is now is helping it, because people see it more often. It's not just, but then it's also traumatic, because like I don't want to see the same video over and over again of someone being harmed that's Black. Like I'm over it. I don't need to see that all the time. Like they already throw it in movies all day. So
or the memes, the insensitive memes that I've seen, like changing the faces of the cop and then George Floyd, when that was going around, I was like, do you understand how many people were hurt by that? And also his family has to see that if they happen to cross by it. Like people don't take into account of what their posts mean sometimes. And I think they just do it for likes. Like you said, Deanne, they just do it because, oh, it's the thing to do. Oh, I saw this person doing it and they got so many likes. Let me follow a trend. But it's like, but did you take the time to actually realize what your post means and how it can affect other people? And if it does go viral, who it's actually going to reach, and then they could actually have the wrong connotations about it. Like it can actually be like a negative thing. I don't know. People, that's the one thing. Because
then when you're corrected too, then they get mad that you corrected them.
Yes.
Like I was mentioning last week.
Yes. And that's the thing, like take accountability. Don't just be like, oh, it was a trend. Oh, I'm sorry. Like those
I'm like, sorry. They said, don't come at me like that. And I'm like, why are you trying to talk Black?
Yes.
So bad.
Oh my gosh, I hate that. I'm just like, but and then especially like I've seen the apologetic, like my white friends sometimes will be like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you on social media, and I'm like, I don't care about you being like, oh, like, I'm trying to make myself feel better. Like, I'm caring about what you're doing to help move like the movement forward and to help everybody come together. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people, right? Or businesses. How do you feel about businesses when they post certain things?
That's what I was gonna say.
One went into my friend's DM. She's a therapist like me. And they were like, oh, can you train us on blah, 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 blah? And it's like, you need to pay her. Why are you slipping in her DM asking for her to give to you?
Like, if she's gonna, I'm like, oh, this is a business. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I think the DMs is very triggering a few weeks ago for sure.
People asking you like, oh, like, how do you feel about this? Or what can I do? Does that, what can I do? I got a lot.
What can I do? I just get like, oh, what's your opinion on this or this? And like, I'm not the Black encyclopedia. Like, I don't even know everything. So,
yeah.
where you come to me?
Yeah.
Go read.
Yeah. And with businesses, it's like Jersey Mike's puts out like a BLM like sandwich and all this stuff, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like they like advertise, and it's things like that where I'm like, okay, are you for them like to help the Black community? Or are you just
capitalizing on it?
Yeah,
that
you're capitalizing on the trend. That's what that is.
And then you have people in the comments being like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm just like, please stop. Don't encourage that. You shouldn't be thanking anyone for speaking or like simply. It's crazy to me. I've seen a lot of that, especially, you know, I'd say like really since everything, it made me really start to be paying attention and be evaluating like, oh, like places that I spend money with, and it's like, or like different brands and stuff like that. And so I've done a lot of, you know, it's like, oh, I saw this cute thing that I wanted to buy on the internet. Oh, who's it by? Okay, wait, let me go to their Instagram real quick and see what's happened since May 26th. Like, let me see what they're talking about. And as I've looked at some of those posts where it's like, oh, maybe they did post a Black square, and you know, you read the comments and you're like, wow, like, thank you so much for speaking out. Thank you for like standing up for us. And I'm like, and that's the extent of from the last 2 months. That's all they've had to say was a Black square. So I'm just I
have a question for you, Deanne, because we kind of talked about this in another episode with some dancers. And it was right when LaDuca Shoes actually put out that they were going to like change their whole shoe line and everything.
Expand the colors.
Yeah. Have you seen the colors?
Yeah, I think I looked at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's my face too. But do you think that they went in the right direction social media wise? Because they posted a lot. Like they were ones where I kept seeing every day they were posting instead of like the ones that were more silent but posted a little bit, or the ones where like completely silent. What is your take on, I guess, the magnitude of posting from a business, or even just like a theater, even like if it was P3, like posting something like, and like, what do you think how the theater community should do that?
I mean, so like there was a lot of drama surrounding like Broadway shows, for instance, who couldn't seem to utter the words Black Lives Matter, at least until they were hounded. And some of which still just like did it in backwards ways, or ways that were just like, nope, like that's not it. And also like if somebody had asked 2 people with half a brain, you should have been able to figure out on your own that wasn't it before you posted it, and everyone else had to tell you that wasn't it. But you know, we're all learning. But I think in those moments, it's like, well, this should just be such a sign of how much work there is to do and how much work you need to do. And I just think like, I don't know, I think with a certain level of platform comes a certain level of responsibility. And if you're an account that is pushing out content on the daily, then great, still push out your content on the daily, but make it relevant and applicable, but also be like sincere about it, you know, like don't I feel like it's often not that hard to see. I remember there was one, I can't remember exactly the brand at the moment, and I probably would say who it was if I could, but I can't. So I can't remember. But I know there was like some brand, like sort of like fast fashion brand, that there was some drama, like something was found on their site that was like very just clearly racist. It was maybe even like some like sort of like swastika like mask or something weird, like something weird like that was just like very clearly wrong. And you know, people called them out and it was a whole thing, and then they issued this little apology, and then it was like, you know, a matter of like barely weeks later, like 2 weeks later, it was like some other thing that was extremely offensive to another group of people,
Like they didn't learn.
Also on there. And I'm just like, yeah, like you can't just be like, oh, well, we deleted that one thing. Like that's a moment for you to be like, oh, let's check all of our stuff out. Like, let's, you know, like let's reflect. And it's like about reflecting. You have to look inward as a company. You need to look at your whole thing as a company, as an institution. You have to look at the whole thing. You can't just be like, oh, we posted this one weird thing and people like kind of yelled at us about it, so we deleted it and now we're just, you know, carrying on as we were. Like that's not the answer. So I don't know. I do think these institutions, businesses, even people, like individuals who have like particularly like large followings, you have to be extra careful, and you have to be conscious about whatever message you want to project. Just make sure you're clear on where you're at with things.
Like don't flip-flop when an issue comes up, and then they can like look back at your post and be like, no, you said this different. Like they do so many celebrities. How many times have we seen that happen?
Said this and then they deleted it.
Like, you know, somebody already screenshotted it.
Like real quick too. It's not even like a second up, and they're like, "Ooh,
somebody screenshotted it." So you have to be accountable for whatever that moment was.
Like the shade room. I don't know if y'all know the shade room.
Shade room.
Like something will be up real quick, and I'll be like, "Wait, I just scrolled, and that was up like a second ago." Yeah. Like people do not play on social media, especially now because everybody has time. Because a lot of people are home. People will see it and run with it, and that's the thing you have to be careful about. If you do have a brand, you have to be careful what you say.
Yeah, and no one's perfect. That's the thing. It's like nobody's perfect, and especially these institutions that are probably have been rooted in or benefited off of white supremacy. Like you have to, part of it is understanding that that's who you are. That's part of why you have success. And like, it just is what it is. But you have to like be willing and able to be a part of dismantling it.
Yeah.
That's it. No one's asking you to be perfect, but also like be able to be held accountable when you do mess up, and like be authentic and thoughtful in the process of moving forward. I don't think it's that hard. Period.
Also with takeovers, how do you both feel about takeovers? I've seen a lot of people of color taking over people of color's Instagrams, and sometimes I'm like, do you take over somebody's Instagram? I did.
Oh Lord, what was that about?
Well, I mean, I took over McCoy Rigby Entertainment's Instagram stories, so they're like following me in a day kind of thing.
Do you know if a brown girl?
Chocolate. Yeah. No, but why I wanted to do it though was because it would be a platform that I wouldn't be able to get to any other way.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'll work with them in a theater setting, but it's like, will those people actually know I worked for them? You know, unless I'm on their Instagram. And I saw that they did it for multiple people of color. Like, it wasn't just me.
Good.
But then again, it also was like, but it just started something where I'm like, well, is it just because of the times? You know what I mean? And will it stop? Those are my questions. I'm like, will it stop?
The fear, will it stop? Or when the trend's over,
Yes.
until another person dies or something else happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because so it's like, yeah, there was that whole like pass the mic thing.
Mhm.
And in a sense, I don't know, it's so fascinating to me because I feel like I was looking at a lot of that stuff and I had, multiple friends who mics were passed to them and just like people I know. And I don't know, something about it was really, it was fascinating to me in this way where like I felt like the people who were passing the mic were probably already a few steps ahead of like a lot of their audience. And so there were moments just like when I would kind of question, or even, I'd kind of like stalk some of these, these accounts that were passing the mic like on this day. And I'm like, okay, let me look at who's taking this account over. And let me think about, whether it be like their credits or whatever. I'm like, there were people who were taking over accounts that I was like, like this Black woman in the Broadway community or whatever might have just as many credits, if not more, than this person that they're taking over the mic from, who has tens and tens of, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of followers more than them. And I'm just kind of like, okay. And so like, let's see, like, okay, they took over that account. They had this huge reach of people, this audience that they had for the day. And then like, let me look at their account tomorrow. Like they better, their numbers better zoom
up.
And I'm just like, but they didn't. Why? Because like, it was cute for a day to tune in to like this Black girl talking to you about her experiences in the industry and her, her life and her experiences in predominantly white spaces and her experiences with racism in, in this industry and in her life as a Black woman. And so, yeah, that to me was very, I was like, that's awesome. For the people who are passing the mic, I'm like, that's great. Awesome. Hand over your platform, give space. We love to see it. But also I was like, these people who are tuning in, so many of them are still just like missing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, oh, so you don't care to like go and follow her for beyond today. Like you don't want to hear about her Black girl life beyond today.
There were so many times because how if you have their account, you can look at who skipped, like how many skips it was, who like exited out the story. Oh my gosh, it was so much for me. Like I remember like being at work and being like, hold on, I gotta check, see if they looked, because I realized when I would talk about something, probably a hard topic that most people just don't want to face, there'd be a lot of skips. But if it was just like, hey guys, welcome to my life, just kicking it, they'd be like, oh, I got more watches. And I'd be like, priorities, people. Just,
Cheap.
and that's what I wanted to know about the other takeovers, Because and it's also frustrating because as a Black woman, you want to have people, I guess, care. You're like, there's been so much, and we've seen it so much that people just don't care about the Black community. They're like, it's not affecting me. Why should I do anything?
Centered on themselves so much.
Or they think they care. They think they care because like, oh, in their minds, like they care about like, that one Black person that they know.
Yeah.
That one token. Their pain or suffering.
Yeah.
Understanding us. Like me talking at this volume, apparently I'm angry. Like,
yeah.
Can't win. Sometimes.
They care about the cool things. They care about like, ooh, this hair is so cool. They care about like, ooh, I wish I had that kind of tan, or like, or like, ooh, your lips are so full, and like, I wish I had that. They care in that sense. They care about our music. They care about when we are producing art out of our pain.
Right. Like Beyonce, hello, she just dropped that. and everybody's gonna watch it and be like, oh yeah.
Okay.
I've already seen posts on it too, like of people that aren't people of color posting about it, and they're the same people that didn't post anything about the movement. I'm like, so you can support a woman who has so much success, but you can't support a community who is trying to get to where you are and be equal. Like, it just blows my mind. I'm just like, social media is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we were talking about. Like, your health, your mental health plays a part. Like, you just have to stop, decompress, take it all in, and also distance yourself from people. I found on social media people that I'm like, you know what? Your social media tells me a lot about yourself.
Oh yeah. Some people got exposed. Some got unfollowed and some got upset with me. And I'm like,
but
that's America. I can do what I want.
But that's the thing. I unfollow people too, and they might be mad about it, but at the same time, I'm just like, your negativity doesn't serve a purpose in my life.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm not gonna like, no, I'm not gonna play it, but I'm not that person. I'm like, no, we good, bye. And that's what I found with social media. Have you guys seen anybody that you're just like, oh, like, oh, I just can't. I can get into so much about.
I don't follow too many like super popular people, or maybe follow them as much, but I was part of a blogger community. Well, apparently I'll be on their diversity team. I'll see what's going to be happening for the changes, but I left the engagement feed because I'm like, I'm sick of these people using the Black Lives Matter at this point. And then they'll be like, buy my outfit or something, like so vain. I just couldn't. So I literally just had to leave that community in a sense. Like I'm there, but then I'm not there. Like I'm gonna see what they're gonna really do about this inclusivity. We have a meeting next week, but like that community was just mind effing me over all the time, because like in the engagement groups, like you're supposed to like comment and engage, but I'll just say it. The white ones, they don't care. They still, oh, so cute. Oh, so cute. Like you can't follow the rules. Four words. It's not that hard. Like, I don't know. And then when everything dropped, and then they just wanted to post, like I was saying, like, buy my outfit, this, that. And it's like, y'all don't care. Even when coronavirus came out, it was still like, buy my outfit. Who's going to buy it if everyone got fired? Like, insensitive. So
that's another thing about coronavirus. People on social media, just their opinion on coronavirus, sometimes I'm just like, wow, you really don't think it's real? Like,
no, it's real. I work at a hospital and I work for the government, so I'm not going to say more than what I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get fired. But
don't incriminate yourself.
It's real. So while everyone's enjoying being safe and I'm getting money cuts, I'm putting my life on the line.
One of my roommates actually sent me this video of these two guys when they went to Huntington Beach, and they were trying to give out masks. And there were so many people, and I was so sad that this was California. I was like, they were like, oh no, I don't believe in it, or oh, I'm gonna basically fight you because you're trying to give me a mask.
Aggressive. My friend works at the Huntington Beach Hospital, and they were protesting. We should be able to go to the beach and da-da-da. They weren't wearing masks. My friend's like, I'm gonna run them over. People are dying in this hospital. Like, why are they bothering us? I mean, I don't want to smile and say it, but I feel like it's my only defense mechanism right now is just to like try to lock it away, but it's still there. It's really sad to me.
Or the posts on social media. I've seen some, because you can follow hashtags. So anybody didn't know that, which sometimes I do. And the hashtag, like sometimes they'll put a hashtag, but it won't even pertain to whatever the hashtag is. Like it'll mostly be like Broadway musical theater
or Pinterest.
I follow. But it was of a white woman who was like very adamant on how she didn't like masks and how she didn't agree. And then like a couple weeks later, I saw her post again because she used the hashtag again. But this time it was like, it's real. My family member has it. And I was like, it took you okay. I was like, but you shouldn't have to post about it on your life like that.
A lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I just had an uncle who passed away from it. So I'm like, it's real, y'all. It's not.
I had one too. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing. I'm like, I'm just like, we all need to figure out our priorities, especially right now in this life. And when it comes to social media, like you're saying, Deanne, I really wish people would be clear on what they stood for.
Yes.
Not flip-flop so much.
Yeah. It's so fascinating because it's definitely like, obviously we see, people on both sides that will be very clear. But it's also, and then there's just, I think, a lot of people who are like, well, like, this is just supposed to be like for fun, but it's just the way our culture has evolved to focus around social media so much. It's just like, it's not just for fun anymore. And I totally am a part of, the group of people that's like, oh, I miss when Instagram was just, like, ooh, look at me doing this fun thing, or like, look at this cute outfit, or whatever,
Yeah.
It's like those days obviously can be missed, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you're gonna engage in it, you just have to recognize what it is now, and like recognize that there's like a level of responsibility with that. And I think I was saying, like, kind of last week about how, like, things like not spreading like misinformation and like fact checking and things like that are just, so important, because you might just think, oh, you just shared or whatever. But some people like social media is their news. A lot of people, it is their news. They don't watch the news. They just see what they see on social media, and that's like what they take on as fact of, what's going on in the world and how the world works. And I mean, it's just become such a powerful tool, for better or for worse, that it's just like, yeah, we have to remember that it's just so much more than
Yes.
You gotta build more critical thinkers, honestly. Like I remember, I think I only did critical thinking when I went to college, and imagine just so many people that don't go to college, let alone maybe not even take that class. But like, if you just accept everything that comes in, like, that can just blow your mind.
Yes, like this is what I realized with social media and news. The older generation, because they watch the news or they read the paper, they get that skewed outlook. You know what I mean? On like we were saying, the opinionated facts now, especially. Like my nana will say some stuff and I'll be like, no, that's not right. She's like, it was on the news. And I'm like, no. But then she doesn't have social media. She doesn't have these things that are saying it in a different way, where it's like, actually at this protest, not everything went like crazy riots. You know what I mean? Like she's only seeing like the bad, the negative. And sometimes I just want to be like, take my Instagram and just look at it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. How that, and what you're saying about in the house, how can, I guess, the younger generation help the older generation come into terms with social media, or maybe show them some things they don't know, or have those talks?
I guess you have to like make a routine time, kind of like family time for it, like an allocated time, literally, Be like, oh, let's talk about like maybe the news today. What did we all get from? And like, let's throw it all in together and argue about it, talk about it, kind of thing. Just being able to let people have their own voice, especially, it doesn't even matter how young they are, Like when I have my niece and nephew over, just to like figure out what we're going to do for the day. Oh, family time. Like, what do you guys want to do? And I see them negotiate and arguing. Like, I think families should just come together and let, no matter what age they are, just to come in and speak an opinion, to have that voice. So I know for me growing up, like we didn't necessarily have that in my voice. Didn't use it much. I was actually selectively mute at one point, like when I was really young.
I think that's important though, at a young age, to know that your voice is heard.
And old too.
And yes, every age.
Like when you were saying that, like, what can we do to put the generations kind of together.
Yeah, because right now they're so divided, and especially in the news and social media, because they're on like two different like because so many people, like you said, Deanne, like especially like millennials and stuff, we don't look at the news. Like I'm not like gonna turn on the news the first thing in the morning and have a cup of coffee. Like that's just not. This is not. I'll probably go on Instagram. I'm telling you right now. I'll be like, ooh, it's just a different time that we're in, and especially now that kids get their phone at like I don't even know how young. Sometimes they're just on it, and I'm just like, I don't remember having a phone until I was in middle school, and I had to because my mom, like, I had to walk home by myself. But it was one where it was like that one press for mom, that one. Now I see, like, right, these little kids have like they already have social medias, and I'm just like, how do you know how to do that?
The dangers of that in itself with human trafficking, kid trafficking, whole other issue.
Yeah,
another Black issue on top of that. A lot of like 40% or more are Black teens.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think like with the intergenerational thing, it's kind of like, I think sometimes you have to also remind older people that they, it's basically anyone who's alive at this point still in this country live through some forms of like revolution within, because our country is one very young, and also just like we've gone through a lot over the last, say, 100 years. And so it's just like, this is just another moment of that. And so I think sometimes it helps to be able to like compare or just like talk like speak to them in like parallels about like, oh, like when you were my age and this thing was happening, like that's how I feel about this, and like all those kinds of things. I think that can sometimes be helpful with older people, because I mean it is, I think in general change gets harder for people as you get older in general. It's like for me now, it's like change with certain things can be like, weird, like what is this? Even like with things on the internet, like TikTok. I'm like,
I don't even have a TikTok. I'm old.
TikTok is beyond me. Like I'm just like, I'm out of reach.
I don't have a TikTok. I don't think I could ever have a TikTok.
Yeah, but I also, but like that same way is how certain people felt about like, even, I mean, kind of Facebook, like when it first came out or whatever, like remember when Facebook was only for like college students at the time when it first came out, and like, even
MySpace.
Yeah, like MySpace and MySpace Music.
MySpace.
Blogger.
All those things. So yeah, it's like, it's all the same stuff.
It really is. So how do we keep the movement alive though on social media? How do we keep our feeds from going back to normal, as a lot of people are talking about?
Keep feeding information.
Yeah. I think like, keep feeding information. And I think there is, even like with coronavirus, it's like obviously even the places that were, I mean, like I'm in New York City, like the places that were March, April, really a lot of May as well, like very like level 1, like shut down, you ain't going nowhere, kind of places. It's like, obviously, like we don't necessarily, most people in New York at least, like don't necessarily have to live that way anymore. Like we're now in phase 4, and you can go have drinks, you can go to parks, you can go to beaches, you can like hang out, you can go to stores, like shopping, whatever. You can do most things now. And so you adapt to kind of like a new, I mean, it's obviously not the same as the world we once were in. And so it's like adapting to like kind of a new way of life, where it's like, we're not forgetting, like ain't nobody forgot about COVID. I mean,
gotta keep going.
Some people have somehow, but I'm just like, it's like, we're doing these things, we're wearing the masks and whatever, and we're distancing. And so I feel like with the movement, like with Black Lives Matter, it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, that doesn't have to now be the only thing that you post about. Like, you can post about, like, you really like this outfit today, like, go ahead, post about it if that's what you need to do.
Fun. You have
exactly. And so I think it's like but I think it's a matter of like acclimating to like a new way of like viewing social media and a new way of like just kind of I think for a lot of people it's a new way of thinking about the world. Even for Black people, it's like, you know, the learning and unlearning goes across for everybody, where like we have to unlearn thinking that like we can't talk about our pain, or we can't talk about like, you know, the injustices that have happened to us. Like we just have to like keep moving and go with it and stuff. And it's like, no, like if you need to call something out, go ahead and call it out. If social media is where you feel that needs to happen, do it. Like, you know, we just have to
real, resource real.
Find a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Question time. So these are questions from listeners. This is going to be fun. Okay. So one person said, you talked about how it was good to take a break from social media for your mental health, but can social media be a place of healing also at times?
You follow the right people. Black mental health, there's a lot of good stuff. Let me tell you. Like my friend Kayla, she does the well healing. And then like once you follow certain people, you'll get that connection of following other people, and like they'll have free Zooms, free circles for healing or deep breathing and yoga or dance. Like,
ooh, what is this? I need this.
I'll send you stuff. I'll send you my friend's info.
Please do.
Yeah. I do like a little bit, but not like a lot right now because I work at the hospital, but like trying to do coaching and channeling the feminine energy, because the more I've read about bell hooks and how Black women lost their femininity because they forced us to be more masculine. So teaching on that and learning about that and reawakening myself with that, like, but definitely there are spaces. You just have to kind of find them. So I'm wondering if I send you, I'll probably email you like links and stuff, and maybe they can put it on P3 as well. So the people that were asking about it.
Yes, can I have the information?
Yeah.
Yes, would love that.
Yeah, I definitely think social media is like such a fine line, like where, yeah, it can be really overwhelming, but it also can be really good, especially in a time like now, like depending on your situation and everything, like, you know, if being alone but for so long and for so much time is not necessarily great, and it's counterintuitive to like human nature. And so it can be a really nice way of like connecting with other people and finding common ground, like hashtags. And again, with those hashtags, sometimes like it's really nice. You can find people of similar interests or people with similar problems, you know, that you're like, oh, wait, I'm not the only person who's dealing with this thing or going through this thing, you know, because there's a whole hashtag of people.
Yeah.
Our accounts dedicated to certain like issues and things that people face. Yeah, that can be really nice.
It can be.
Psychosocial media. That is actually a very good platform. My friend is the co-founder of that. So we deal with a lot of BIPOC, like mental health and breaking that stigma. And so he'll post different things, or like different organizations or psychologist profiles to like share any information or events or like webinars or just like a live where people can just come in and vent or not vent, or, you know.
No.
Yeah.
That's all good. I'm gonna go on. Watch me after this be like on Instagram, like, who can meditate me?
I found someone, I don't know who I follow, but today around 12 it was said like 20-minute guided meditation. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea.
Sometimes you just need to breathe.
Who can meditate?
Hey. Okay,
yeah,
so
definitely very healing. It just depends on what you're focusing on. Like whatever you focus on gets bigger, right? So if you're going to focus on just playtime, people being whatever that trigger you, Really triggered, point blank. So find something that is healing, or find like funny stuff like on TikTok. Like there's some funny stuff.
Yeah.
Or like a chaplain pastor breakdancing. He's like, I was bullied as a kid. Breakdance. I'm like,
Okay.
this is my church for today.
I love that. I love seeing the funny stuff and the uplifting stories on social media.
Oh my God.
Stuff. Yeah.
Like the little kids, them doing some stuff.
I like when kids dance. They're so cool. They're so cool.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
No, they're cooler than me. Okay, so next question. Do you share auditions or events on social media so that your followers can audition or participate in things that are pertinent to people of color?
I mean, I wish I had a theater company to do that.
me personally, when it comes to auditions, I don't share auditions. I don't know why. Well, you know, it's cuff, cause events, protests, an event for P3 Theater Company, anything event-wise, I'm down to share. Auditions, for some reason, I feel like I put in so much work to find that audition. You should too.
Yeah. I'm keeping it.
If you work for an agency too, and they put you in auditions, like
right. But I will tell my friends. So I don't think I like will post like on social media, but it's more of like I'll have a conversation like with my roommate or somebody else. Like I'll be like, hey, come with me on this audition. Or if I know that somebody's good for the role and it's not necessarily me, I will reach out to people. I'll be like, you should do this.
So it's all about the network.
Yeah, it's definitely networking. Honestly, entertainment's all about networking.
Tonight. I'm really, hey.
But sometimes for auditions on social media, I just feel like too many people gonna show up. Sorry.
The open audition too, though, right? Because
I guess I'm like, that's the thing. It depends. Because I'm like, I don't really go to many like open call kind of auditions. But I think, I mean, sometimes I guess more for like modeling stuff or like different things like that. I'm like, okay, I guess like if there was something that, if someone sent me something and was like, hey, I'm looking for somebody for this, and I didn't feel like I personally knew like the direct people to reach out to, then yeah, maybe I would be like, share it in my story and be like, hey, if you fit this bill, like somebody's looking for this, get at it. Something like that. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely share events and things like that. I feel like auditions are just kind of like,
it's difficult.
It's a difficult one because at the same time you're necessarily like competing in a way for the job. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we've also had an episode where we talked about including each other and also people of color actually going to auditions and not being scared that I'm not right for this. So there's like that fine line now where
the training or classes that kind of cover that though, and building your confidence to go or how to find kind of thing rather than I'm giving you all my breadcrumbs or something.
Secrets. On how to find it.
Right. I don't know how to word it. I mean, I don't really go on auditions. Like I was saying, like I'm not full on actor. Like I'm just part of like an improv, like little troupe thing. But I don't know. I guess I feel like.
But I guess like if your improv troupe was like looking for new people, like maybe that's like a moment where you would be like shared on social media and be like, hey, they're looking.
And they probably would just share it on their page, and then I would probably like just share it from the page kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or if they ask me like, oh, well, if you know someone, then I'd be like, ooh, like let me go hit up Jodi or something, like, you know.
Do you think that, say, P3 Theater Company, an example, do you think they should put auditions on their Instagram or something like that? Because maybe people don't have access to that page or actors access.
I don't think they do. I think they do it on Facebook.
I do think
or Facebook.
That's good when places, when like institutions put, or like casting. I know a lot of casting agencies sometimes will do that, especially if they're looking for something that like isn't maybe the easiest, or they're trying to like broaden the reach of who, you know, who would maybe be coming in for it. Which I think that's good, but also like to whoever asked this question, you know, if you don't know, like playbill.com or backstage.com, Actors Access, those are all really great resources for finding auditions.
Yeah. And I think, because I have found stuff on Facebook sometimes, but I do think they should post on social media, because say, because P3 is in Long Beach.
Yeah.
And that community, there could be so many people that want to do theater but don't know about those kind of like backstage and everything. So if they maybe were following P3 on Instagram, Facebook, they'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna give theater a shot. And
Yeah.
I like that. I like that kind of.
John has done that. I think he probably has, but I think he's done more of the playbill, like you were saying, and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But
No,
definitely,
yeah.
I know their social media is getting more active, so they'll more likely throw it on there and stuff more too. I know other community theaters in Long Beach do that. Like I found auditions on there, like Long Beach Playhouse, different places. So Facebook, yeah.
Do y'all think there are more pros than cons of social media?
Depends on what attachment you put to it. How you attach.
That's
Let's
great.
get deep. Like it really is. I mean, if you have like a negative mindset, you're gonna see it as hell, you know, or you're gonna see it positive. It depends. You have control over your mind. You don't have control over what people post or anything, but your spirit, your soul, your mind, your body, you control that. So choose wisely or see it wisely. If you're like, man, I'm noticing my mood's different, check your body. And if your mood's bad and start noticing, be aware of what you're watching, because more likely it's because of that. And then you either cut it or you keep it because you want to stay in the negative heaviness. If you need to bust out, like we were saying, cut some people, click, delete, click, block, you know.
Okay. Next question. Oh, you have something to say?
Oh no, I thought that was a great answer. Yeah, I think it's like how she was saying, like it's about like your mindset. It's the pros and cons have a lot to do with how you are triggered or how, you know, like what you allow into, you know, your view, and also what you use social media for. So it's like, like the meaning that you attach to it is like, do you use it to just like be like, hey, friends and family, like keep up with my life, or like are you using it for a business purpose, or are you using it to fill a void? Like, are you using it for information? You know, all of that really does, I think, affect.
It does. Last question. We made it. Okay. How are you doing your part to ensure that the news you share is from a valid source? And how can others be sure as well when posting information?
Love that.
I could be honest, I could probably always double check and stuff, but I usually try to find like therapists and psychologists and like research, because then it's kind of cool. But or just kind of like facts, like what's white supremacy or what's capitalism. So it's more definitions that I kind of share. I don't think I really share news as much. Maybe more science-based. Nerdy stuff.
Hey, people need to know them, okay? I've seen stuff on social media and I'm like, I wasn't taught that in school.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think it's just fact checking. I don't know. I'm like, if you see something and it sounds at all questionable, whether it be it's new information for you or it contradicts something that you already knew or thought, it's just like Google is a magical tool.
Yeah.
like it's not that hard. Like it's so much easier for us. Like these days I'm just like, oh, everything's so easy for us. So to me, that's like where I really get like irritated at, you know, like severe spreads of misinformation and things like that. Cause I'm just like, guys, it's not that hard. Just like go into that Google, ask a few questions, ask Siri. You don't even have to type it.
You're right.
Like, I'm just Alexa, whomever. Figure it out. Just like find some reputable sources that like really cite whether this information is probably right or whether it's not, you know?
Yeah, and analyze it, right? Like be prepared for someone to go in the DM and be like, well, why'd you post that?
Yeah.
Have it educated.
Yeah, it's just like having
rather than just I'm putting it because
somebody said it.
You can see all sides of the story when I'm like, I don't see all sides of the story right now.
You're like, I need that.
Just check yourself, re-wreck yourself, and be open to, unwreck yourself if you messed up. Like, still some tender love and care, man. It's too crazy out there to be so serious and harsh and like want to get like a pitchfork and fire and just try to like harm people because they posted something.
Right.
Cancel culture.
Cancel, yeah, she's canceled.
It's just like it's a problem. Cancel culture is such a toxic issue in our generation. Like it's just not always the answer. Some people maybe do need to be canceled, Kanye. But like
mental health.
People that go away from social media.
I help people like that.
Bless you.
Some people just need to be maybe even still be great. That's part of the problem. It's still not canceling, but like we need some more accountability and some more I guess care in like the circle that is like actually close to him in that like in that example.
Yeah. Don't follow people that are saying things that are idiotic. Just don't do it.
Some people just do it. I mean, I'm like, also some people do it and I think they really are just like taking it in, and then there's other people who like do it for the entertainment factor, and I'm just kind of like
trigger.
But then I'm like, you're offering the platform, like you're expanding the platform. I'm like, do we realize that we are who give these people platform? Like whoever it is, it's like we give the platform. If the 2 million of us don't follow them, they have no platform. So like you just have to, hold them accountable with like their information, and then also like remember that we can take the platform away. Unfollow.
That is
more
the power of the click.
Okay. No, the power of the click. I love that.
It is.
Yes, and on that is episode 8, part 2.
Half.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for coming on. Once again, they didn't want the story out social media, the algorithm we've been talking about.
No.
But we made it happen.
I don't have a lot of likes this week. Something happened.
Go like it. That's knowledge.
That's a lot of ink.
Shameless plug. I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. And everybody, I hope you join us next week for Breaking It Down with Jodi Marks. Have a good night.